Welcome to the Balance Podcast by Zen Hustlers.
All right. Welcome to Zen Hustlers Balance Podcast. My name is Jared Brick, the creator of Zen Hustlers, and we are a resource community to offer busy professionals, the hustle mindset, the Zen mindset, and anyone out there who's really seeking balance on the edge. So we have a full website, and then we also have a podcast. So the Balance Podcast is really about talking to people who are in the journey. They've been through something personally, they want to give back, and they have a really good story to share. Plus, they offer the world amazing services. So today we have Natalie Thomas. Natalie is joining us all the way from Portugal. She is a meditation, mindfulness, yoga, and she also offers AstroCartography readings. So thank you so much for joining us all the way from Europe, and excited. Tell us about your day. Like, what does it look like, Natalie, in Portugal these days?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me on the show, Jared. It's an honor to be here. So a day-to-day look at my world in Portugal. Well, it's interesting because I work mostly with U.S. teams and U.S. companies, so which means my mornings are a little bit more quiet. So I will take the mornings to maybe work out, go to yoga, meditate, journal. I do a lot of busy work in the morning. I like to kind of perch up at a cafe and just have quiet time and like knock out any busy work I need. Because around the 2 o'clock, I would say 2 o'clock hour, maybe 3 is when calls start to, really my calls start.
Okay.
So that's really when I work. I work with clients starting around 2 or 3 p.m. That goes sometimes until 7 or 8, just depending. And yeah, but it's such a great lifestyle here. I'm working with a bunch of other digital nomads, people who are international, working abroad. So the city is designed in a sense to also cater to those who are living and working remotely.
Got it. And so you've been doing this experience of the nomadic digital lifestyle for 6 years. So let's go back 6 years. Where were you? And then how did you make that transition? Because we've spoken to a couple more nomads on this program, but I want to hear your journey.
Absolutely. Wow. 6 years ago, if you had told me that 6 years later I'd be living in Portugal, I would have never believed you. When I saw it all on this journey, I did not even know what a digital nomad was. I had no idea people were living and working remotely. So what happened, I was working for a movie studio in LA. I was making movie trailers. I convinced my work to let me go on a 4-week trip through South America. So I went on this backpacking trip. I used all my vacation. I took a leave of absence. And while I was backpacking, I simply just asked the universe, give me a sign for my next move. I was in this transition phase. I was ready to move on from what I was doing at work. It wasn't really fulfilling me anymore. And at the time, one of my friends who was living in Santiago, Chile, she was my neighbor in LA, now living in Santiago. She called me and said, hey, Nat, my friend is looking for a roommate who speaks English for free rent. And my company just got, her company just got into Startup Chile. So she's like, you can kind of help with my company. You have a place to live. And I thought, wow, this opportunity fell into my lap. I don't really have major commitments other than my work that I, have to tend to at the moment. And I feel like I will never have this opportunity again in my life. So I went back, I put in my 1-month notice, and my company was very confused. They're like, wait, you're moving to Chile? Like,
Yeah.
they did it. And nothing really made sense, but intuitively inside, it made sense in a way that I could not even speak with words. It was just this gut feeling I had.
Okay.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go there just for the summer in the States. I'll be there for a few months, and then I'll come back to LA. Well, after those few months, I definitely did not go back to LA. I wound up staying in Chile for over a year. And it completely changed my life in the most magical way possible. There was also very challenging moments. And ever since my move to Chile is what prompted my next move from there. And then from there. So it was really just listening to that guidance and really seizing upon opportunities that showed up for me.
Got it. And so I'm sure there was some fear that came up, some resistance. How did you break through that with such a bold move?
There was definitely a lot of fear and resistance. I did not speak any Spanish at the time, so that the language barrier was definitely
Big one, by the way. Oh, by the way, I didn't speak any of the language. I'm in a foreign country. It's huge.
I know. I arrived and I was like, oh my gosh, you have to speak Spanish. Like, you don't have a choice. So I immediately immersed myself in a program and immersed myself into speaking Spanish. That was a huge hurdle. and a very mixed with very uncomfortable moments in time. If you imagine, just going to a country where there's really very, very little English, which was so important to me in learning a new language and my growth. It was also a time where I just knew I had to listen to my intuition. I was heavily supported, but also I felt people around me were also very confused of why I would give up this really quote unquote, sparkly looking career on the outside when deep down I wasn't really happy anymore. And I knew it wasn't fulfilling me. And the company I worked for wound up getting bought out by Disney when I moved to Santiago. So it was a sign that I did make the right choice. So there is a little resistance from people around me, within myself, not speaking the language, not knowing anybody. I knew one person there. So I always say, though, when you have this gut feeling that it feels scary yet exciting, that's the guidance within to move forward. And that's just really, it was a huge leap of faith. That's all I can say. Like a massive leap of faith.
And were you someone that would often act on that? Are you someone that would often be a risk taker and take that challenge ahead? Or was this a new way of behaving for you?
No, this is definitely my nature. So I did it when I moved to LA on a smaller scale. I left everything behind in Atlanta, shipped all my stuff out to LA with no job, just an apartment to live, and needing a job very badly when I arrived. And luckily, I started working for a movie studio a week later. So there have been moments in my life that I just kind of blindly do things, maybe more impulsively, but I always try to just listen to that gut feeling from within.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of your journey. 6 years ago, you took a big risk. You left this comfortable job, potentially in LA, that you thought, even though it was about to get acquired, you didn't know that. And you make this big leap to Chile, it sounds like. You didn't know Spanish. So when did the self-career, when did the solopreneurship start? And what did that look like? And how did you get into that journey?
Sure. Well, it was funny because when I was living in LA and working for the movie studio, this was 2016, I actually got inspired to start a website. And I have no idea why, like no idea. I was very much into mindfulness and yoga. I had been for a while at that point, and I didn't have any offers of what I was going to do or sell or talk about. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start this website and blog. So I hired someone to create the Now With Nat, and that's how my website got started. And it wasn't until I started traveling and I moved to Santiago where I just briefly blogged a little bit about my travels, a little bit about mindfulness. But what I didn't know is that website was going to be really the start of my personal business. And it has been such a journey. So the Now With Nat did get started in 2016. But as for my work and my offerings, it really started around, I would say, 2018.
Got it. And so what did you start with? What were some of the first services?
It was definitely just teaching yoga was one of my first services, and also leading retreats. So pre-pandemic, I led a retreat in Spain and I led a retreat in Thailand. So it was more retreat focused and retreat oriented. And then that took a major shift during COVID times when I pivoted my business completely. I still do retreats and I love retreats, but took a major pivot to work with corporate teams in the States and to offer a one-on-one meditation program for clients.
Nice. And so let's talk about corporate wellness, since you just brought that up. What do you see as the problem pain point for the customers coming to you? And then how do you walk them through that journey of either wellness, meditation, mindfulness?
So, of course, one of the main things that people come for is mental health and for stress relief. A lot of people who do work corporate, especially making that transition during COVID to working from home, not going into the office, it's a huge transition, personally, mentally, emotionally. And what a lot of teams were seeking out is, wow, there's this huge gap in the space of really prioritizing our team members and their mental health. So that is really the first thing that we talk about. And I start with really implementing a meditation program for them all to do. So that's essentially, I do have a 6 to 12 month program for corporate, and we focus on meditation, breathing exercises, mindfulness, intention setting, reducing the risk of burnout, because we want employees and also supervisors, CEOs to thrive. And it starts from going within. And that's the first thing to do. And once you go within and you start to change your internal world, then you're able to show up in the workplace to be a leader, to really listen maybe more to your colleagues, not react a certain way. And of course, not just in the work environment, but in your personal life and with your relationships as well. So it's a main thing that we do focus on.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful how it spills over into, like, you start with one thing, like, oh, stress at work, and then it spills into all the rest of your life where it's relationships. You bring it home with you, which is great.
Absolutely. So it's really just handing people the tools to combat stress. How do I reduce the stress when I feel anxious? What are some techniques that I can do? And a lot of times I work with teams and different people who are like, what, self-care? Is that even a thing? I can put myself first and I can focus on that. So, and we're like, yes, it's important to fill your cup too. So really just carving out that time and using the tools that have helped me and just really sharing them with others.
That's great. So can we dive into a couple of those tools? Like what are some of the hands-on tangible things that people could practice today if they're listening and they're like, you know what? I'm feeling stressed. I want to listen to this, but I've got 5 other things I should be doing. So what are some things that people can dive into, that low-hanging fruit?
One of the best things that I like to share that have worked for me, and maybe it's different for other people, and that's the beauty of this. I like to provide tools for people to choose which ones work best and resonate the most. But carving out time in the morning is just very important, especially for my mental health and really setting the tone for the rest of the day. So what a morning routine looks like for me is waking up, trying not to check my phone as much, really trying not to be on my emails and messages, because that's immediately what we do when we're working, right? We check our work emails and we immediately get stressed. So how can we, that one little simple thing, like take 20 minutes in the morning to not do that? And I know it's hard. And then, and any journaling is really, really great. Just doing a mind dump. If anyone has read The Artist's Way, it's so important just to like mind dump in the morning, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 pages, get anything out. It's almost like we're getting stuff out that we don't want to take with us the rest of the day. And then after that, followed by a meditation, whether that's just guided or with my own music, by any type of meditation, journaling practice, no devices practice in the morning has really shifted and been a game changer for me.
Got it. I love the journaling thing because I think it's so important. And they've said that, like, even if you don't act on it, even if you don't read it, the act of purging it creates some clarity in your mind just by purging the thoughts out of yourself, either by typing it or writing it. Now, you believe in handwriting over typing for notes and journaling?
Yes, I personally handwrite, but I even have a little, not journal, like a scheduler and I handwrite everything. So I'm a person who does like to write. And you did make such a great point of, this is just a mind dump. You don't have to read it. I have stacks and stacks of journals that I've written in, and I do not go back to read anything unless it like maybe had this huge insight. I would say like 95% of the time, I'm like, that's done. I don't need to read it. And it's, turn the page and don't look back.
Yeah, it's a great practice. I love it. And I think it's so impactful to just mind dump so that it gets those thoughts out of your head and it gives you clarity as you're doing it. There's some act of, by speaking things to the universe and then writing them, it kind of gets it out. And especially your fears, your uncomfortable areas of your life, like purge it and then act on it in your active part of your day if you want to, because now you have some clarity about what's really going on in your mindset. So how do you introduce mindfulness and meditation to new people that are new to it?
I always start with the same thing. I always start with the power of breath because our breathing is so important. So whether I'm teaching yoga, meditation, whether it's a mindfulness course, any type, in the mindfulness or wellness space, the first thing I start with is the power of our breathing. Because what happens when we are stressed and we're anxious, we breathe very shallow and our breath is very fast. And we're not using our whole belly, we're not using our whole body to breathe. So just by focusing on the breath is really the foundation that I like to lay before going into our meditation and mindfulness training.
Got it. I've been listening to Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, and getting into some of his books. And he's really a big fan of the nose, just breathing in and out through the nose, changing nostrils. Are you a big fan of that also?
Yeah, there is alternate nostril breathing that you can do, which is definitely great. It calms the mind, definitely puts you in a state of calm. So 100%.
Nice. Let's get into astrocartography and being a reader. So let's start back in the beginning. So it's not astrology, it's different. So let's talk a little bit about what that is and how it benefits people as a service.
Yeah, astrophotography is super fun. It's what it is exactly is okay. We all have a natal chart. We all have a birth chart.
Yeah.
Where we put in our date of birth, our time of birth, and place of birth, and we get our birth information. Now, in astrocartography reading, based off of that information, you get this whole picture of a map. And on the map, there's a lot of different lines, and each line represents a different planet. Now, some places might not have lines, some places might have a lot of lines. Some of the lines, which are the planets, might be very favorable and feel good. Others, maybe not so much. So when I do a reading with somebody, I also work intuitively as well. But when we do a reading, I look at that person's chart. We go through continent by continent and where in the world maybe they would want to move or live or travel to or write a book or start a blog or start their online business or maybe a place to transform, find love. And it's just like a fun tool that you can use when you're traveling or relocating in general.
Give us an example. Do you have any stories that come to mind of people that have traveled to somewhere around having a specific goal like that and what might have manifested?
Oh, absolutely. It's really cool because even during readings, a lot of times, my clients, they've been to places before and we pull up their map and they're like, oh my gosh, like that place is where I did start my business, or this place where maybe there's the sun. I love it so much and I really thrive. And even for myself personally, I'm able to look back at places I've visited or maybe even haven't yet that I would like to go to. So it's really, really interesting. And the majority of the time with the client, their intuition's on point for where they want to go and where they've already been. So it's it's just a super fun little tool that I like to share. And I do also work intuitively as well and give any guidance in that regards.
That's really cool. I've worked in travel professionally for years, and I think there might be a business here where we, do an astrocartography reading and then it creates an entire itinerary for you. And now we could potentially even use AI to create the itinerary. Does anyone ever go back to their birthplace? Well, how does it relate to your birthplace then with astrocartography?
It honestly just depends. When I pull up somebody's chart, they might not have any lines going through their birthplace, and it just might be a very neutral spot for them. There might be some challenging lines, which can represent travel, any challenges in the home environment growing up. There could be very favorable lines, which represents abundance growing up in the home environment. I also do like to dissect their natal chart as well and look at specific house placements, which can also tell me where someone will feel comfortable in a home, why they might foreign travel, etc.
And based on doing this work, do you think it's about the culture of the place, the weather? Is it all the factors? Like, why do you think when they're getting somewhere that it has this resonance for them? What do you think is really going on at that location?
Sure. It's normally the energy of the place that we vibe with, right? Everything is energy. We are energy. It's the same as if you walk into a room and you feel uncomfortable or you feel like, oh, wow, I feel like I belong here. It's the same when we relocate to a place. There's an energy and a resonance with every single city, every single country, every single location. And a lot of times, depending on how sensitive we feel, we can really, really feel that. And it can have this massive impact on our lives. And a lot of times the chart with the lines can also show that extra energy that you can feel from a specific country.
That's cool. And it makes me want to do that work before I travel because it adds this whole new layer of insight of like, oh, maybe I could work on this while I'm on vacation in this place that I think would be really inspiring to change my life with. And is it going to influence your retreats, where you choose to do retreats at this point?
Not too much. It hasn't influenced personally too much of where I've lived, only because a lot of the places I lived was before I started astrophotography. There are places I personally would like to visit to where my lines are just to get the sense of the energy of the line. As for retreats, I will definitely use that as a tool. I hope to not maybe go to a Saturn line to do a retreat or a Mars line, but yeah, it will definitely be in play.
Speaking of, do you have a retreat upcoming?
I potentially might have one in the works, but not until February, and that will be in Guatemala.
In Guatemala. Okay. Interesting. So tell people a little bit of the corporate team experience of a team that went through this, and maybe someone you worked with for a little bit longer of a stint, and some of the benefits that they've worked with, so that, at the end of this, we want to give you a shout out to work with you. So give us a little bit of a success story of a team that you spent maybe 6 to 12 months working with, and some of the benefits they gained from that.
Absolutely. It's definitely an overall sense of clarity, reducing stress, reducing anxiety, a deeper connection with themselves, a deeper connection with others, tools to really navigate the workplace, and also tools to really go within and say, what do I desire in my life? Am I running on autopilot? Am I doing things because I think I have to? So it's a time of deep reflection for people to go within and to reevaluate their inner world and what they really, really want to do with their lives. So I've definitely seen transformation. I've talked to a lot of our clients, and you know what? It's always a privilege for me because I'm learning. It's always a two-week street. I'm learning as well. So even though we can say client and teacher, they're also my teachers. And it's also just such a deep learning experience for me and a life-changing experience for me. But definitely the easy, the stress, and just creating the space to thrive in the workplace and to go within to, have deeper relationships, not just with others, but for them within themselves.
Nice. Thank you. And we're going to have a post to link to Natalie's work. In the interview, we do a short questionnaire. We'll put this in the blog post while people are listening to this. You had mentioned some sleep tips, and we're all learning that sleep is becoming, the main pillar of our wellness. Everyone tended to think about diet and nutrition, and now sleep is becoming one of them. You had mentioned something interesting about yoga nidra and meditation, and then no caffeine after 1 o'clock. So tell us a little bit more about your sleep routine and how that helps benefit you.
So that's a really good question, because I do like to touch on sleep when we go through corporate wellness. So for me, definitely yoga, meditation. Yoga nidra is a form of meditation that puts you in the in-between state of meditating and sleeping. So it's extremely powerful. It really helps you relax. For me, personally, I just can't have caffeine after 1 p.m. Some people can. My mom can have a cappuccino at 10 p.m. at night to go to sleep. I definitely cannot. I am very sensitive to caffeine. But I will say this, when it comes to sleep, there's also a technique that I do like to share. If there's something that you want to manifest in your life, there's something you want to change, and this can be an intention, it can be a goal, it can be as simple as, I want to feel inspired, I want to feel happy. What the best thing to do when you go to sleep is imagine yourself in that state. So if there's a goal you want to accomplish, if there's a state you want to feel, see if you can visualize that as you're going to sleep, because the magic works when we're sleeping in the subconscious mind. So we don't want to go to sleep, and this is hard. We're human. I go to sleep angry sometimes, right? Like, we don't want to go to sleep angry or upset. We want to try to put ourselves in the highest state possible, because we take that energy with us and bring that into our next day. So sleep is very, very important into also really creating what we want to create in our lives.
Yeah, it's critical. And I love that idea of like working out your problems almost, or coming up with a solution while you sleep. Just having that mindfulness meditation as you drift off and let your brain kind of reassemble everything and it doesn't always come out that way. Exactly. But at least you're putting effort and intention in that as you drift off to sleep. Another thing you had mentioned is about the hustle. So we're Zen Hustlers. You had mentioned that you're really putting a lot of effort into what you're doing right now. So how do you, when you're feeling like you're really being pulled into the hustle, what helps you step back, and what are some techniques that you use personally?
Definitely the yoga meditation. I'm a huge yoga meditation fan. I try to practice yoga for at least 4 times a week, meditate 1 to 2 times a day, and really holding myself accountable to that no matter how much my workload has picked up. Because as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you can relate, sometimes it's so crazy high and then it goes low and then it goes high. Like, you ride these waves of entrepreneurship. It's not really this like one neutral line. So that within itself, it's like, how do we have structure so we feel like we can manage no matter what comes up for us? But it's definitely the yoga, meditation, and the morning routine.
And Thank you. Those are wonderful tips. And give me a quick insight. How did you learn the hustle culture? Was it mom, dad? Was it someone else in your life? Where do you think you got taught hustle culture?
Honestly, just through society, right? Like you have to go to work and have this job and everything is go, go, go. And I think I had shared with you before, the first time I was burnt out, I was 19 years old. I was a competitive diver, a very highly competitive diver. I did not feel burnt out so much when I was younger. It wasn't until I went to college and university where that is when I really experienced the hustle culture at its highest. When I was 18 years old, it was like, practice 6 days a week, weight room training 3 days a week, dry land practice 5 days a week. And on top of that, trying to study and, do well in school. And it was extremely challenging. And to be so young to do that, it's just, yeah, it was kind of, I would say, eye-opening at the same time.
Yeah, there's a fantastic documentary about, forgetting the exact name, about the Olympians and all the sacrifices. The name has the word gold in it. Yeah, the name has the word gold, and it's about how hard they're pushing themselves to achieve these unbelievable, they are these amazing life goals, but the impact that it has on them being these amazingly high-performing athletes.
Absolutely. It was the first time where I really experienced burnout and mental health because I was like, this is not really normal what I'm doing to my body. And I feel so burnt out that I'm not even enjoying this practice anymore. And of course, the same goes into the workplace too.
Yeah, I know. And what do you remember as one of the signals for you?
Oh, that I was burnt out?
Yeah. What was one of the burnout signals? Was it pulling back? Was there any is there anything personally that you want to share?
I felt it in my body because we hold everything in our body. I had a stomach ache all the time. And it was my body being like, what are you doing? It was like constant stomach pain. So I internalized my stress into my stomach, and we all hold our stress in different areas of the body. And that was my first signal. Like I thought something was wrong with me. I was going to these doctors and they're like, no, you're fine. But at the time, there was not much talk about mental health, and there's not much talk about how we can create illness and dis-ease within our bodies. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I was just internalizing my stress. And when I stopped diving and I made the point to stop, my stomach pain went away. So now I use that as a compass where I'm like, okay, my intuition's guiding me, but if my stomach is hurting in a certain way, I know something's off and I know I have to take a step back and reevaluate. And it doesn't go to say that I didn't really love and appreciate my time as an athlete. I really did. And it taught me so much and prepared me for the workforce. But in a good way, it did teach me about how to deal with stress and learn what signals were going off when, I was having stomach pains and like knowing something wasn't right.
Yeah. I mean, I really believe that the body is trying to send us these, universal messages, and it's up to us to start listening of like, why do I feel this way? And it's the body saying, hey, wake up to this thing. I'm trying to shake you up. I'm sending you this message. Pay attention. It's not, like you said, it's just a shame in our culture where we'll go to a doctor and they'll say, no, you're fine. I'm like, your intuition is screaming at you going, no, there's something going on here.
100%. I wish I had the tools for meditation and yoga at the time. I did not at all until
That's exactly why we're here. That's exactly why we're here, is to, help others along in the journey. One of the reasons I love doing this keeps me in the practice of all these great tools, and I get to talk to experts like you. So you had offered something using a code Zen Hustlers. So tell our listeners and anybody watching, what's one thing that they can dive into the Now With Nat and with you personally?
Absolutely. So you will get a discount on 2 of my offerings. That would be the 12-week one-on-one meditation program, which is super fun. We meet once per week and we go deeper into mindfulness and meditation. And then any of the 6 to 12-month corporate team offerings. Also, if you are listening and you're just interested in AstroCartography reading, send me a message and let me know that you heard this podcast, and I'll give you a discount on that as well.
I am, yeah, because as a big traveler, I'm like so curious. It's like I could just hear that little internal mind going like, where should you go? And I have my bucket list, and it's been Japan and Brazil for a while, and I'm wondering if it's going to link up with that reading. So that is really exciting to hear about.
Jared, we can definitely take a look at your astrocartography map, and I'm sure your intuition's correct. So
I hope so. You also put in the questionnaire, one of your favorite quotes is, "I am that I am." And is that something you say internally, out loud? And what does that mean to you?
It is. It's one of that my teacher has told me, my mentors. It's one of the most powerful statements that we can actually say. So I do say this internally. I will say this in meditation. And just to remind myself, I am is the most powerful word that we can say. And what comes after I am is what we're creating for ourselves. So do we say, I am, I am not good enough? Or do we say, I am empowered? But saying, I am that I am puts us more into our power as humans. And just being mindful for anyone listening out there. I also do like to journal using I am and putting that outcome after I am. So very, very powerful statement. A lot of times as humans, right, we put ourselves down. I am not capable. I am not good enough. I am not worthy. And how can we change that to I am in my power? I am feeling inspired. I am full of joy. And it might sound kind of cheesy at the same time, but I promise it's worked and it's powerful.
That is a great ending. And so I am excited to share this with everybody. And you actually added that I am excited. And remember, folks, our body does not know the difference between I am nervous and I am excited. It's the exact same chemical response. So if you can tell yourself you're excited and you're curious versus I'm anxious and nervous, you can actually tell your body, like, relax. This is an exciting thing. This is not something to cause more anxiety. And we use that in our work in the video and media world a lot. Like, take that energy and put it into whatever you're recording, hopefully.
For sure.
So, yeah, this has been fantastic. Anything you want to leave everybody with? It's been wonderful.
I think just like take it one day at a time right now. We don't have to have it all figured out. Take little steps towards the fruition of your intentions and goals. You don't have to have this huge morning routine. Even if it's just 2 minutes of meditation, that's a great place to start.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining us all the way over in Portugal. It's been wonderful. And for everybody watching, remember, you can head over to zenhustlers.com. There's resources, there's books, there's experts, there's live events that you can attend, including there's a burnout clinic coming up later in the year because we had talked about burnout earlier. So thank you all for watching. Feel free to share this and let others know in your life that you're out to support them and ask for help when you need it also. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.